Welcome to Yellow with Susu. I'm your host, Susu, and tonight's guest is MMA fighter Coach Dre. Hey, Coach Dre.
What's up?
Thanks so much for joining us on our podcast tonight.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we are so happy to have you. So, Coach Dre, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in mixed martial arts and boxing?
Yeah, so basically I started wrestling when I was 13, I want to say, my ninth grade year. And it's funny because I never wanted to wrestle, but my mom would take like forever to pick us up because we was going to like Farmington schools, but we ain't live in Farmington. So she ain't working like near it. So we couldn't just walk home. We lived in like either Pontiac or Southfield, like other places far away. So if we stay at the school, they would try to kick us out of the school. And during the winter, it would be cold. So I wasn't really trying to be out like outside for real. So I joined the wrestling team, so I didn't have to wait outside.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So from there, I started wrestling in college. Wasn't really messing with it, so I dropped. Well, I didn't drop out. Well, when I stopped wrestling in college, then I switched over to learning how to do MMA, right? But I was sparring somebody, and then they went for a kick, and I could tell that they was about to kick. So I was like, all right, I'm about to just eat this kick with my leg. So once that kick landed on my leg, it hurt so bad, and I was like, I'm just boxing. You feel me? So then I started boxing. About 3 years. I boxed about 3-4 years only, and then I switched over back to MMA because I went through a few different gyms in Detroit, and then I liked this one gym out in Windsor, but then I got too busy to try to make that trip to Canada every single day. So I just was like, you know what? I work at an MMA gym. I might as well just suck it up and just do MMA.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you did boxing in Michigan and in Canada.
Right. Yep.
Okay, very nice. And then I was going to ask you, was there a specific person or was there actually something else that inspired you to pursue a career in these type of sports?
No, not necessarily. It just, for me, like, I just don't do well with, like, don't get me wrong, like, school is cool, it's all right, but it just, at the end of the day, it didn't make as much sense to me as physical activity. So I could, and especially working a job, like, none of that made, like, I couldn't picture myself doing it. So I was like, I got to make it work doing something else. I was dropping classes to have time to go to the gym and train. So it was like, I need to be doing something that's going to make me happy, which is boxing, and then eventually it became teaching people how to box. So it was like, I couldn't picture myself doing anything else than what I'm doing right now. And I wasn't going to accept a life that didn't involve it, because then I would be miserable.
So you kind of followed your dreams and then it turned into your career.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. So I was going to ask you, how would you describe your fighting philosophy, or what drives your approach to training and competition?
I guess the biggest thing I would say that I didn't take into full account when I was fighting, because right now I'm retired, and one thing I wish I did different when I was fighting is being more focused on just fighting. But I'll not only, like, yeah, I did want to fight, but I also wanted to build a fitness empire, and then I also wanted to have a podcast, and I also wanted to make money off Amazon, and I also wanted to have a clothing line, and I also wanted to, I think I already said podcast, yeah, but I just wanted to do so many different I wanted to do so many different things that I wasn't always focused. It would be times that, like, yeah, I might have trained for 2 hours, but now it's like, all right, I could rest and train more, or I could rest and then read on how to do this or work on something else. So I guess my I don't want to call it a regret necessarily, but it's more so, if I had to give advice to any young fighters coming up, it would be to choose fighting and do fighting, like, just fight, and then in fight in a way that that's going to be like success. Because I kept doing everything else as like a backup plan for my fighting, instead of making fighting the thing that I was going to make a career.
Like to be able to basically stay focused.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Which that leads me to asking you, can you share a particular time where was a challenge during a fight or something that you had to overcome during those challenges when during MMA or boxing?
Mm. Yeah, I mean the whole sport is a challenge, especially like when it comes to weight cutting. That's a challenge in its own, mentally and physically, because it's like, and it just kind of shows you what you're capable of. For instance, one time for a wrestling match, I had to be 118, I believe, and the day before weigh-ins, I was 128. So I had to lose 10 pounds in 24 hours. So just the fact that I was able to do that, it kind of shows that, okay, I know I'm capable of, if there's a deadline and I know it's something that I need to get done, I know based off previous experiences that I'm able to put my mind to it and get it done.
Wow, so the importance of a certain weight. Can you tell us why does that actually matter so much when you're telling me about that?
The weight cut.
Yes.
Well, there's weight classes, so and it sucks because, like, say it's a 125 weight class, right? Yeah, you could say like, okay, if you're 125, why not just fight at 125 or whatever, But there's people who walk around at like 150. They look at the 125 weight class and be like, oh, I think I can lose 25 pounds by weigh-ins and fight there, but then gain the weight right back. You feel me? So it's like.
So, Coach Dre, can you talk about the importance of staying focused, preparing, and the mindset in fighting?
Yes, it's like the main thing. Like fighting is physical, but I promise you, it's so much more mental than a lot of people realize. I've lost a fight. I don't want to say just one fight. I lost multiple fights from not being focused. I know one fight in particular. I was in a fight like I don't even want to be here, and that was towards the end of my career because I had got injured. And then I was only able to train people. And when I trained, and then for the month that I only train people, I'm like, oh, I make way more money just training people. And I've already been fighting for years. So it's like, and I was coming to the ends of my road. I'm like, it makes way more sense for me to train people, and I don't have to put myself through this, So then it got to the point where I'm in these fights. I'm like, why am I still doing this? I wasn't focused anymore. And when it comes to this sport, it's too dangerous to have one foot in, one foot out, especially when you don't need to. It's like, I didn't need the money. It's one thing if I was fighting to put food on my table, but I wasn't fighting for that anymore. So it's like, yeah, it's imperative to be focused on just that,
Wow. So, with all that experience, how do you train your athletes in that aspect?
So right now I'm doing with my coaching program or with my boxing program. It's only a fraction of what I want it to be in the future. Because in the future, once I have like my own gym and all that, I want to have sessions where we are just focused on the mental. Like I'm gonna have like we're not even gonna work out. It's like we're gonna meet up. We might go over like some quotes. I'll have them like write down their goals, write down their thoughts, and just make sure their mental is in line. I even add in meditation in our practices because the mental is so important. I remember one time it was one time before I think my third amateur belt. It was a tough fight. It was a tough fight up against a good kid, and I was having like anxiety because I get nervous before my fights. But then one time I listened to this podcast. No, it wasn't a podcast. It was an audio book called Relentless by Tim Grover. And I listened to that for like 6 to 8 hours before the fight. And I promise you that listening to that helped me envision myself getting my hand raised. Like listen to that made me only envision myself getting my hand raised. I couldn't think of anything else. I couldn't imagine losing the fight at all. I just picture myself winning, and I feel like that led me to winning that fight. And that was one of my best performances.
Wow, that is such great information. So, besides the physical aspect of being a fighter, a boxer, being spiritually prepared, being emotionally prepared, and having your mindset ready to go is one of the most important things.
Yes, I believe so.
And is that what led you to like some of your future plans? So you just spoke about some of your future plans. Is that the goal? So what is your goal? To be able to have a gym? Is that the main thing for you?
Yeah, eventually, yep. I think I want to be able to have. So I have a brand called Fit and Focus, and basically the message behind that is to help people get fit, but also help them achieve their goals outside of fitness as well. So I want to create a gym that does that for everybody. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna help you accomplish your workout goals, but I also want to see like what goals do you want to accomplish in real life too. So almost like a life coaching type, like a group life coach with aspect within my actual gym, along with having a boxing program, a competitive boxing program in my gym as well. So that's the future down the line for sure.
So it's Fit and Focus. Do you have that going on right now?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where can our listeners find? So basically, can our listeners, if somebody wants to join a boxing class or start learning MMA, how would they reach you? What's your Instagram handle?
Coach Dre 721.
Okay. And then where are you teaching?
Redford, Michigan. So it's on 8 Mile. It's called Mash Gym. So if they look up Mash Gym on Google, they'll find it.
And how do you spell that?
MashGym. Yeah, Mash Gym.
Mass Gym.
Yeah.
Mass Gym. That's where they can come in person and they can train. And then you train all ages.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool. And then do you also do online coaching, like all this preparation that you're talking about?
Not really. Like I used to have courses and stuff, but it wasn't getting the traction that I wanted. So now I'm more focused on doing a lot of stuff on my YouTube. So they want to follow me on YouTube. It's Coach Dre 721, no spaces, no periods. It's just straight up Coach Dre 721. And so from there, I'm about to just do more of the things that I've said that I want to accomplish and put it out on there.
That's very great. So Fit and Focus, and then you said, can you tell us the gym name again?
Mash Gym.
Mass Gym. And then
Yeah.
is it a course that they can join up with? Can they just drop in, or how does that work?
So I have different programs. I got some that they can private training. That's an option. Or I do have men's boxing classes or women's boxing classes, and then the kids boxing classes. So they're all at different times. So if they want more information on that, they can hit me up on Instagram. That's the best way to reach me.
Okay, Instagram's the best way to reach you. So do they need
Mm-hmm.
to come in? What do they need to buy boxing gloves before they come in, or how does someone get started in that type of field if they wanted to start boxing?
Yeah, they definitely want to get their own boxing gloves.
Okay.
We had some they can borrow like for their first time, but
Okay.
they don't smell great, so they better off getting their
Okay.
own. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: about how long would you say that it takes to someone, or excuse me, how long would it take for someone to start reaching their goal if they wanted to start boxing?
It depends on what their goal is. Like, are they trying to just learn, or because I have people that come to me with all different goals. Some people just want fitness. Some people just want to learn boxing. Some people want to compete. So it's like at the end of the day, everybody is different. Like, I actually just did a video on this. There's people that have been training their whole life. Like I remember, for instance, when I used to wrestle, there's one dude. He said he used to wrestle since he was a kid. I learned to wrestle after a year. I was destroying him. He was easy work.
Oh
So,
wow.
so you feel me? So it's like there's so much that goes into play with learning boxing, and a lot of it at the beginning, especially, is genetics. Like when it comes to how quick you can get good. Somebody who's naturally athletic, and plays other sports and stuff like that, they'll probably pick up boxing a lot quicker than somebody who's never played a sport in their life. And then also it depends how often you're training. Are you training once every week? Because you're only going to get so good off of that. you know. So yeah, there's a lot of factors for real.
Is boxing, so if somebody learned boxing, that's very separate from kickboxing, right? Or is it something that you incorporate together?
So in my women's boxing class, so it's a more of a fitness class. So sometimes we do kickboxing, but in my boxing class, my men's boxing class, which I call my men's boxing class more so just to, so there's not as many questions. But I do let some women do I do let some women do my men's boxing class, but only if they're okay with hitting people and getting kicked. But we
Right.
don't do we don't do any kicks in that class. It's just straight
Okay.
boxing.
Straight boxing. Very interesting.
Mhm.
And you were talking about all, people with experience and these types of things. What are your views on some of the fights that are going on now? You just saw there was a Ryan Garcia fight. We have the Mike Tyson fight coming up with the one of the Paul brothers. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so the Mike Tyson one that just got pushed back. I don't really. I mean, that's kind of a joke a little bit because Jake Paul, what is he like in his 20s, and Mike Tyson's like 60. So it's kind of a joke, but it'll generate money. It's a check, and at the end of the
Entertainment.
day, yeah, and boxing is a business at the end of the day. So even if there's stuff that I don't necessarily agree with, a lot of times I understand. Like, say, even top fighters, they don't always fight each other. They might wind up fighting somebody that you don't never even heard of, but it's like, okay, they got to check off of it and they got to feed their family. They got to feed their selves. So it's like, I understand. Like Gervonta Davis, he just fought somebody named Frank Martin, who before that is like, who is this guy? He honestly had no business sharing the ring with Gervonta Davis, but Gervonta Davis made, I'm sure, well over $1 million off that fight. So it's like, I'm not going to argue with Gervonta Davis about that.
Because it's still sports and it's entertainment.
Right.
So do
Yeah,
you
that's what he does
have
for a living.
I was going to ask you, is there like a favorite boxer of yours? Like, is there a favorite person that you found, someone encouraging that you watched fight? Is there a favorite boxer that you had?
Yeah, especially when I started off, I used to like mold my style off of Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, and Mike Tyson. But now I'm so just interested in like watching a lot of film on everybody. I don't even have a favorite boxer anymore. I'll pick a fighter for like a week or a couple weeks or a month and just digest all of their fights, and then I'll pick another fighter, and it's just like, so I don't necessarily have a favorite fighter anymore. I just enjoy watching boxing, but I do like Gervonta Davis though a lot. So I could, if I had to say who's my favorite fighter right now, I guess I could say him. But I'm
Right.
always watching so many people right now though.
Well, that makes sense too because each fighter has their own techniques and just watching each game, each fight, you're learning from each person. So I can definitely agree with you on that and see how it's so hard to choose from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then too, like I said, the whole Mike Tyson and the Paul brother, whichever one. I mean, they were, like you said, it could be like this whole entertainment thing, and one was training. And then too, what leads me into that, there's a lot of people who the whole steroid situation. One of the
Mhm.
fighters, I forgot her name, she's from Michigan, and she, because we have a couple women fighters from here who are really well, and I think they ended up testing for it, and she was using them, which I always said, what's the point of doing that, right? Because it's unfair. If every single person there, why even fight? Why?
Mhm.
What's the point of even doing that? Because it's not, to me, it's not real. You're using
Right.
all this. Some people have different opinions. Some people say, well, every fighter should use them. Every
Mhm.
sports person should use them. Every baseball player should use them. For me, on the other hand, I'm like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the worst part about it is that it has side effects and consequences for using them. So to make an argument saying everybody should use them is kind of like messed up. Like, imagine what if like heroin gave you like super good benefits, but it's like, oh, that's not fair that you're using it. It's like, oh, well, why don't you use heroin so you can get this? Like, I'm not trying to be hooked on heroin. Like, you feel me? So to say somebody should everybody should use steroids to make it fair, I don't think that's a good argument, you know?
Yeah, because like you said, staying healthy, especially as a fighter too, because you're a coach, you train people, your everyday diet, staying healthy,
Right.
is that does that also play a huge role in succeeding in this type of career?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it's really important to eat right, eat enough. You know, got to eat the right things before practice. Because there's been, and I had to learn that the hard way. You know, there's been times where I might have ate something spicy that I didn't think would be that spicy, but then I got into practice and it affected me. I might have ate like some type of sweets earlier in the day, and that still affected me. So I had to learn that the hard way. That it's like, yeah, I had to eat a lot cleaner when before practice and especially before a fight, because I got to make sure I make my weight. And then once I make my weight, I got to make sure I eat right, the day before the fight, because I don't want to eat nothing too heavy and then feel super sluggish and like throw up, because it's been times I threw up after the fight because I didn't eat great. So.
Right. So basically you have to eat right to maintain your balance while fighting.
Right. Yep.
And
Definitely.
and being able to stay focused through the fight.
Right.
That's really awesome. And Coach Dre, I was going to ask you too, what advice would you give to aspiring fighters and coaches?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the biggest thing would be just to make sure that you choose. If you're gonna fight, you have to choose fighting. You don't really have you. It's a lonely sport. It's just you and you. There's some fighters that, like for instance, the dude Andre Ward, who I mentioned earlier, he'll even like during a training camp, he'll move away from his family so he can get focused because he knows the amount of work that he has to put in to get to where he needs to be. So I think people just got to be focused. If they're going to do this, they got to choose this.
And they have to be able to rely on themselves and to be able to depend on themselves, because I really like how you said that boxing is a lonely sport where you have to learn how to be on your own during that time of training and, while fighting or getting ready to get into the ring.
Right.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Coach Ray. We really, this was really fun tonight. I learned a lot personally. So, anybody out there who's listening or thinking about getting into boxing or MMA, they can reach out to you on Instagram. They can check out your YouTube and all these other things.
Definitely look out for my Fit and Focus brand that's coming soon, so they can buy some merch. Yeah.
When does that come out?
I'm gonna really start pushing it out. So I'm gonna say in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Okay, and then you're gonna have a podcast. You're gonna relaunch your podcast as well.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I do like talking, so so I definitely want to. It's just everything got to make sense, because right now I'm focusing on YouTube, and editing these videos is, it's a lot of work, So
editing is, and that's the funny thing that you say that, because editing is so time consuming. I think everybody forgets about the whole concept of having to edit. You shoot for 20 minutes, you're going to edit for an hour.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it was so fun talking to you. And then again, they can reach out. Can you tell us your Instagram handle one more time?
Yep. Coach.Dre721.
Okay. And that's in Michigan. And then training is what, Monday through Saturday?
I do 7 days a week, but it all depends on what they're interested in. Private sessions, definitely every day, usually from anywhere in between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then my classes are all different times, different days.
Oh, wow. And then you teach, and then they get to decide if they want to do boxing, MMA, or like fitness training. Do you have to do boxing before MMA, or?
Well, not necessarily, but it does help to have a discipline that you're like mastered for. But I mean, yeah, you could go in there and just learn MMA, but at the same time, the gym that I train at, they won't let you do MMA unless you have some type of experience in either like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or a kickboxer.
For people who out there who don't know, can you tell us a little bit of the difference between boxing and MMA?
Well, yeah, boxing is more what's the word? It's more of a restricted sport. You're only restricted to using your hands for real. Where MMA, say you can't beat your opponent up, like their hands are way better than you, but you can take them down and you can submit them. So I always compare boxing. Boxing is like a thumb war. Like a thumb war, you can only use your thumbs. You have to get that person's thumb down. That's the only thing you're allowed to do. So you got to get really good at that. Where MMA is like rock, paper, scissors. If you're not good at rock and the other person, or say you're only good at rock and the other person's good at paper, right? But say you also know how to do scissors, then you can beat them. You feel me? So there's more options. There's more ways that you can win with MMA. But yeah, but you also, it's important to be well-rounded. So it's kind of, I think it's even more time consuming than boxing for that reason, because it's like you got to learn all these different things and try to be a master in all of them as much as you can.
Wow. And I was going to ask you, is there an age limit? Can anybody, if somebody wants to join, like you said, maybe somebody retired or somebody wants to start a new career, does age matter in this type of sport?
Depends on their goals, because I train two of like one of my best students. Like they're super athletic. They do like they're women. They do my men's class and they spar with the guys. And one of them is 45, the other one is 42, and and they're like they came a long way, but they love it. And yeah, so to an extent, no, you can start whenever. They not about to get out there and actually get a fight, but they still enjoy it. They enjoy sparring, they enjoy coming to class, they enjoy working out, accomplishing their goals. So yeah.
Could someone of an older age get into, if they wanted to fight? Is that a possibility?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a possibility. But also again, this sport ain't, it ain't nothing to say, oh, one day I want to try. It's dangerous. It's not a sport where it's like, all right, so say you want to get a basketball game when you're older. It's like you go against people about your age, they're probably gonna take it a little easier. Not in this sport. You feel me? You might be 40 some years old going in there against a 20-year-old. I've seen it happen. They put 45-year-olds in there with 20-year-olds, and that 20-year-old is not going to take it easy on you.
That's so interesting. So basically, it's something that you have to make a decision about and be able to.
Right.
And even regardless whatever age, you have to put in the work and be.
Right.
So just from talking to you, it sounds like you have to be focused and you have to be dedicated to pursue the career in boxing or MMA.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much, Coach Dre, for being on our podcast tonight. It was so fun having you on and so much to learn. Yalla, everyone. Thanks, Coach Dre.
Yalla, susu.
Take care.
All right, you too.